then hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, and finally goiter. Okay, this is what is included in the topic, today's topic. So we'll start about some function of the normal function of the thyroid gland. Okay, so as you know, must have been taught by the physiology and anatomy people. Thyroid gland is made up of two lobules. It has got two lobes which are present anterior and below the larynx. Okay, and these two lobes are connected by a narrow some tissue which is known as the isthmus. Okay, so as such, thyroid gland is not palpable. Thyroid gland is superficially located over the larynx. Spite of that, it is not palpable, not visible. Okay, but there are different conditions. Most important is the goiter, where the thyroid gland becomes visible, and you can even palpate the thyroid gland. Okay? Now, if you examine the thyroid gland, if you take a histological section of thyroid gland, thyroid is composed of lobules, small lobules. Okay, so these lobules are divided by thin fibrous septas. Okay, and each lobule is made up of about 20 to 40 rounded follicular-like structures, which are known as the thyroid follicles. Okay, so thyroid follicles are the functional and the structural unit of the thyroid gland. Okay, where the thyroid hormone is synthesized. Now, this thyroid follicle, let us come to the individual thyroid follicles. They are lined by the cuboidal epithelium. Cuboidal epithelium or by the low columnar epithelium. Okay? And the central part of the follicle, okay, is filled with the eosinophilic material, which is known as the colloid. Okay? So colloid term refers to the some thick material, okay, acellular material. Now colloid is the most, because colloid is the stored form of the thyroglobulin. Okay, and colloid is made up of iodine and the iodides. Okay, now the function of the thyroid gland or the thyroid follicle is to synthesize thyroid hormones. Okay, so thyroid hormones are T4 and T3. Okay, 3 and 4 refers to the iodines, molecules of iodine. Thyroxines mean tetra, 4 molecules of iodine. Okay, tri means 3 molecules of iodine. Okay, so thyroxine T4 and T3. Okay, both are synthesized and released by the thyroid. Okay, now as far as the synthesis is concerned, okay, thyroid follicular epithelial cells, okay, so they uptake iodine from the thyroid follicles. Okay, so depending upon the thyroid follicles or the thyroid gland is a dynamic structures. Okay, so there are a lot of factors, stimulant factors that decides the synthesis and the release of the thyroid hormone by the thyroid follicles. Okay, and the most important is thyroid stimulating hormone or TSH. TSH, as you know, is synthesized and released by the thyrotroph cells, which are present in the anterior pituitary gland. Okay, so whenever the thyroid hormones are required, okay, this TSH level, TSH will be released. So there are different stimuli which will cause release of these stimuli are actually come from the higher level, from the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus controls the pituitary gland and pituitary gland controls the distant thyroid gland or the thyroid follicle. Okay, so TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, is the most important factor which is released by the thyrotroph cells present in the anterior pituitary gland. Okay. Now, thyroid hormones once released by the thyroid follicles. Okay. So mostly T4 is released. Okay. And T4 does not remain in its form, in this form, in the blood. It will be deiodinated to the T3, triiodothyronine, T3, okay? The difference between T3 and T4 is that metabolically, T3 is more active. As far as the metabolic effects or the functional effects of thyroid hormones are concerned, T3 is 10 times more potent or more effective than the T4. Okay, so the level of T3 has to be maintained. T4 and T3, as soon as they are released into the circulation, they become bind with a globulin, which is known as thyroxine binding globulin. Okay, so this thyroxine binding globulin, it binds whatever thyroxine T4 is released into the blood. Okay. Now, thyroid hormones, okay, T4 or T3, they are carried because thyroid hormones, they act upon all the cells in our body, okay? So whether it be the muscles, fat, heart, okay, brain, so they have got a trophic effect everywhere in each and every cells, okay? So these thyroid hormones are transported to the distant tissues and the organ by means of another protein, which is known as transthyretin. Transthyretin is the form of the protein which carries thyroid hormones to the distant organs and the tissue. Okay. The thyroid binding globulin and the transthyretin, both are important in the blood, which will keep thyroid hormones engaged. And these two binding proteins are very important because they maintain the needed or the required concentration of thyroid hormones. It acts as the buffer, okay, maintaining the level of the thyroid hormones, okay. Now, what is the function of the thyroid hormone? So has it been taught in physiology, biochemistry, thyroid?
Yes, sir.
Oh, so it will be easy for you. So thyroid hormones are very important hormones in our body, okay, because they affect all the metabolisms. So most important are carbohydrate, okay. It upregulates carbohydrate and the protein metabolism. And lipid metabolism, it also upregulates the lipid metabolism. So carbohydrate, lipid, and the protein synthesis, and all these metabolisms are totally decided by the thyroid hormone. Okay, and all these metabolism of these substances, they produce calorie or the energy. Okay, so in simple way, a normal thyroid hormone maintains the basal metabolic rate or BMR, okay, by maintaining the normal carbohydrate, lipid, and the protein metabolism. Okay, so if these hormones are increased, either released more into the circulation or produced increased by the production is increased by the cells, so hypermetabolic state will be produced. Okay, and if these hormonal levels are low, the metabolism is suppressed. There will be slowing of the metabolism. Okay, so decreased metabolic effect will be there. Clear? Now, how do these thyroid hormones actually, how do they act? So at the cellular level, this thyroid hormone, they act upon a receptor, thyroid receptors, which is present over the surface of the cells. Okay, so they will go and react with the receptor. Okay, thyroid receptor present over the surface. Okay, so this activates a protein, GS protein. Okay, growth stimulating protein. Clear? And signal GS or the growth stimulating proteins, they are actually signal transducing proteins. Signal will be transduced intracellularly within the cell, okay? So within the cell, actually, another enzyme will be activated, cyclic AMP, okay, adenosine monophosphate cycling, okay. So this will act upon the nuclear receptors. So they will act upon the nuclear receptors, okay. So this is how a thyroid hormone acts at the cellular level, okay. So this is insert about the structure, anatomy, and the function of the thyroid hormones and the thyroid glands. Okay, is it clear? So I think this should have been all discussed in physiology and the biochemistry itself. Okay, so this was revision for you. Okay, so before starting the pathology of the thyroid gland. So is it clear? Up to this stage is clear? You can understand, or you want to ask anything?
Clear, sir.
Is clear? Okay. So now, just like any other endocrinal gland, okay. So thyroid disorders also, either there will be increased functioning, hyperfunctioning of the thyroid gland, or there will be hypofunctioning of the thyroid gland. Okay. So hyperfunctioning of the thyroid gland is known as hyperthyroidism. So okay. So we will be discussing hyperthyroidism as well as the hypothyroidism. Okay. So now let us start with the hyperthyroidism. As you know, thyroid gland function is controlled by the pituitary gland and also by the higher centers. So there are different factors which control the normal synthesis and the release of thyroid hormone by the thyroid follicles. Okay. So hyperthyroidism can be either endogenous. So endogenous means primary hyperthyroidism, which is due to the increased release of hormone by the thyroid gland. Or it could be secondary hyperthyroidism. So as we have discussed in our previous classes, it has been in previous classes. So adenomas of the pituitary gland, thyrotroph pituitary gland can also cause primary hyperthyroidism and secondary hyperthyroidism. Clear? So now let us come to the causes of hyperthyroidism. Okay. So there are three important causes, pathological causes of hyperthyroidism. Okay. Number one, the most important cause of hyperthyroidism universally, okay, is the diffuse enlargement of the thyroid gland. So this is known as diffuse enlargement of the thyroid gland or the Graves' disease, or also known as thyrotoxicosis. Okay, is it clear? So the
Yes.
common, is it clear? The first and the commonest cause of hyperthyroidism is diffuse hyperplasia of the hyperplastic enlargement of the thyroid gland, which is also known as Graves' disease. Okay, or thyrotoxicosis. Yeah. So this disorder is also, the cause is autoimmune mediated mechanism. Clear? So first cause. Second important cause of hyperthyroidism could be early stages of, there are different types of thyroiditis, immune mediated inflammation of the thyroid gland. Okay. So one of the commonest type of thyroiditis is Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Clear? So Hashimoto's thyroiditis in the early stages also causes thyrotoxicosis like feature. Okay. So second important cause is autoimmune mediated thyrotoxicosis or Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Clear? Now the third important cause of hyperthyroidism is adenoma, functional adenomas. sometimes function of the thyroid follicles, thyroid gland, which are known as the adenomas. So those functional adenomas can also cause increased release of thyroid hormones, resulting in hyperthyroidism. Okay, so all these three are the important causes of hyperthyroidism. Okay, is it clear? So can you remember all these three causes of hyperthyroidism? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So now let us come to the clinical features of hyperthyroidism. Okay. So clinical features of hyperthyroidism is protean, because thyroid hormone affects most of the organs in our body. Okay. One thing I forgot to tell, okay, thyroid hormones are important even during the intra-embryonic life. During pregnancy, okay, development of the brain, fetal brain, as well as the neonatal brain is also dependent on the normal thyroid hormones. Okay. So if anything has affected the normal synthesis and release of thyroid hormone, okay, the child will be deficient in thyroid hormone, hypothyroidism, and this will affect the development of the brain. Okay, so thyroid hormones are very important. So now let us come to the clinical manifestations or features of manifestations of hyperthyroidism are due to two important causes or the important effect. So the first is hypermetabolic state. Increased thyroid hormone will always increase the metabolic rate, basal metabolic rate, okay, causing or upregulating the all the metabolisms. Okay, so first cause of or the clinical features of hyperthyroidism is due to the hypermetabolic state. And second important cause of clinical manifestations are increased sympathetic activity. There is increased sympathetic activity, or there is increased beta adrenergic more production of heat, more calories. So this heat has to be lost. So there is so as a response, physiological response, there is vasodilatation. And this vasodilatation causes or makes the skin warm, moist, and flushed. Okay. So such patients are heat intolerant. Okay. So they will complain that they are feeling warm and they are intolerant to the heat. Okay, so these are the earliest skin manifestations of the hyperthyroidism. These are very important. In most of the cases, the patient will be presenting with all these, will be actually giving the symptoms, all these symptoms of hyperthyroidism. Okay. Now the second important, there is sympathetic overactivity. Second important is actually cardiac manifestations. Or you can say, sorry, as I told, there is sympathetic overstimulation. There is increased beta adrenergic shingles. Okay, so as you know, beta receptors are present everywhere in the blood vessels, in the heart, okay, in the muscles, okay, so a lot of places. Okay, so sympathetic overactivity or sympathetic overstimulation will present with other symptoms, like the patient becomes restless, he becomes emotionally labile. Okay, he will complain of insomnia. Okay, so all these symptoms are due to the sympathetic overactivity. He may complain of palpitation. Okay, so all these features are due to the sympathetic overstimulation or increased beta adrenergic tone. Clear? Now, third, cardiac manifestations. Patient with hyperthyroidism will complain of palpitation. Palpitation, if you examine, you'll find tachycardia. Okay? And this palpitation will be at rest. Okay? So they will complain of palpitation or pounding of the heart. Okay? So this is due to the this is the compensatory response of increased basal metabolic rate or sympathetic overstimulation. So even during sleep, even if the patient will go to sleep, even during rest, they will be feeling palpitation or the pounding of the heart. Okay, so this is very important feature. Now another important heart feature is there will be systolic hypertension to the increased metabolic rate. So as a compensatory response, okay. So these patients actually, if they are already suffering from heart diseases, if the patients are old patient already suffering from the heart diseases, so they are at a risk of developing. In the early stages, these thyroid hormones, what they do, they act upon the muscles, cardiac muscle cells. They cause inflammation of the cardiac muscle cells, okay? So the heart stroke volume will be affected. So the pumping action of the heart will be affected. Patient will develop cardiomyopathy, okay? And such patients are at a risk of developing heart failure, congestive heart failure, okay? So the type of heart failure will be low output heart failure, because thyroid hormones, they affect the normal contraction of the heart, okay? Systolic contraction will be affected. So such patients will develop congestive heart failure, okay? So this is very important. In the long run, if thyrotoxicosis, hyperthyroidism is not treated effectively, so this will result in the heart failure, congestive heart failure, okay? So these are all the cardiac manifestations of the hyperthyroidism. Clear? Now the third important clinical manifestation of hyperthyroidism is the eye, okay, ocular manifestation. So hyperthyroidism, early cases of hyperthyroidism will be obvious in the eye. If you look at the eye, there is less contraction of the upper eyelid, which is known as the lid lag. Lid lag, okay? So this lid lag in the early stages is due to the increased contraction of the superior palpebral or the eyelid muscles, which is known as the Muller muscle, okay? So patient cannot close the eyelids. The upper eyelid will be lagged, okay? So this is known as the lid lag. So lid lag is the earlier manifestation. Looking at the eye, you can say that the patient is hyperthyroid, okay? So this is in the form of lid lag, upper eyelid, okay, not coming down. Yeah, so these are the early feature. But in late stages, increased thyroid hormones causes lot of changes behind the eyeball. Behind the eyeball, there is presence of retroorbital soft tissue, fibrocollagenous tissue, as well as the fat cells, okay, or adipocytes. So there will be increased production of the fibrocollagenous tissue. Fat cells, adipocytes will change into the fibrocollagenous tissue, okay? As well as there will be inflammation, lymphocytic infiltration of those retroorbital soft tissue, fibrocollagenous tissue or the fibrofatty tissue. So all these causes increase in the mass of the retroorbital tissue. So this will bulge, this will cause protrusion of the eyeball, okay, which is known as proptosis. So late stages, there is outward protrusion of the eyeball or the bulging of the eyeball, which is known as proptosis. Clear? So lid lag, early stages, late stages, protrusion of the eyeball, or which is known as the proptosis. So this is one of the very important clinical manifestation of the hyperthyroidism. So is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now another clinical manifestation of hyperthyroidism is musculoskeletal. So increased thyroid hormone also exerts lot of effect on the muscles, bones and the muscles, okay? So bones, okay, there will be breakdown of the bony trabecula, okay? So bone matrix or the bone trabecula is destroyed. So such patients are in the late stages, they are likely to develop osteoporotic changes. Clear? So patient may present with a fracture, pathological fractures. Clear? This effect on the bone. Now muscles also, especially proximal muscles, they develop inflammation. So this is known as thyrotoxic proximal muscle atrophy, or there is weakness of the proximal muscles. Okay, so this is another effect of hyperthyroidism on the muscles. So musculoskeletal systems are also affected in hyperthyroidism. Okay, clear? Now, so this is in short, okay, about the clinical manifestation of hyperthyroidism. Okay, so to sum up, all the clinical manifestations of hyperthyroidism. Skin, another important thing is that patient with hyperthyroidism will complain of increased sweating. Okay, there will be increased perspiration. Patient will complain that they are feeling hot, heat intolerant, and there will be sweating. So this increased sweating is due to the increased calorigenesis and sympathetic overstimulation. Increased calorigenesis causes sweating, oversweating. Okay? Now, how to diagnose hyperthyroidism? Okay? Simple. Okay? All these clinical features as very pertinent or very suggestive of diagnosis of hyperthyroidism. Okay? But we want level will be low. Okay? T4 level will be raised. So decreased TSS level, a normal or the increased T4 level is usually suggestive of hyperthyroidism. Okay? So there is a type of hyperthyroidism known as T3 thyroid toxicosis, in which T3 level will be raised. Okay? So that is another separate entity of Graves' disease. Okay? T3 thyroid toxicosis. Okay, so this is in short about hyperthyroidism. Okay, now let us come to the hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism. So hypothyroidism will start with the clinical manifestations. Okay, so patients with first we'll start with the causes of hypothyroidism. What could be the causes of hypothyroidism? Causes of hypothyroidism can be congenital or hereditary. Hypothyroidism may be present since birth due to certain defect in the genes, which affects the normal synthesis of the thyroid hormone, which affects the normal hormone synthesis. Okay, so there is defect in either the iodinization of the iodine thyroid hormone, or there is defect in the enzyme peroxidase enzyme system. So that will result in defective synthesis of the thyroid hormone. Okay, so this is the congenital cause. So this is also known as disharmogenic goiter. Disharmogenic means defective formation of the thyroid hormone. Okay, so hypothyroidism, the cause could be hereditary or congenital. Number one. Okay, second important cause of hypothyroidism could be autoimmune. So autoimmune induced thyroiditis, severe inflammation of the thyroid, which will cause destruction of the thyroid follicle. The commonest example is Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Okay. So second important cause is autoimmune mediated inflammation of the thyroid or thyroiditis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Okay? Now the third important cause is, okay, non-functional adenoma. Okay? Or some disorder of the pituitary gland, which affects the normal TSH level as well as the thyroid hormone. Or third important cause is, okay, hypothyroidism is iatrogenic, or which can occur as a result of treatment during surgery, okay? If surgery is done on the thyroid to treat certain tumors of the thyroid gland or the malignancy of the thyroid gland, so thyroid gland will be resected. So that will result in hypothyroidism. Second, radiation. As we have discussed in pituitary, hypopituitarism. Okay. So surgical removal, repeated radiation, okay, or certain anti-thyroid drugs. Okay. So all these can cause, these are the third important causes of hypothyroidism. So is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So now let us come to the clinical features, okay? So clinical features of the thyroid gland, hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism, unlike hyperthyroidism, can involve the children. It may be present since birth, or it can involve the adult, okay? So depending upon the age, the clinical manifestation will also be variable, okay? So if hypothyroidism has involved the child, it will result in a condition known as cretinism, okay, cretinism. If hypothyroidism has occurred during adulthood or the old children, so this will result in another type of hypothyroidism, which is known as myxedema. Okay, so hypothyroidism can be caused by structural abnormality of the thyroid gland as well as the functional abnormality of the thyroid gland due to the defective synthesis of the thyroid hormone. Clear? So what could be the causes? You can correlate, okay? So the earliest manifestation, like a child suppose is born with a congenital hypothyroidism or the cretin child, how it will look like? The child will be actually, weight will be more, okay, overweight. And the facial features will be coarse. Edemat will be there. There will be protrusion of the tongue. Okay, so the facial, looking at the facial appearance, coarse feature, we can say that the child is born with a congenital hypothyroidism. Okay. Now in the older child or the adult, okay, the earliest features will be in the form of weakness, low activity. The patient will become listless. All the activity will be decreased. Okay. So such patient usually will be sitting idle, okay, will not like to do any activity, okay, you will become listless. And his physical activity will be low, okay. Gradually his mental activity will also be low, okay. He will not reactive, he will not react to the outside environment, okay. So mental activity will be low, will be slow. Such patients become mentally less active. Okay, so this condition in the adult will be confused with psychiatric conditions, depression. Okay, so most of the cases, I have also seen a lot of cases, old people, okay, with hypothyroidism being misdiagnosed as depression and being treated with the antidepressants. Okay, so only in the late stages, okay, some good physicians, they clinch the diagnosis as hypothyroidism because such patient, they present with a depression all the clinical features of depression. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, patient with hypothyroidism, unlike hyperthyroidism, they gain in weight. Okay, hyperthyroid patients actually they lose weight. Their appetite is more because of hypermetabolic state. Their hunger will increase, appetite will be increased, but they will not be able to gain the weight. Their weight will decrease. Okay, so this is about the hyperthyroidism. So in contrast to that, patient with hypothyroidism or with myxedema, they will complain of increase in weight or the gain of weight. Skin becomes thick and coarse. There will be loss of hair. Okay, loss of hair. Eyebrow will be gradually, okay. The patient will be complaining of loss of the eyebrows. So alopecia, loss of the hair, okay. Skin becoming thick and coarse, okay. Less perspiration. Sweating is also less. Such patients are sensitive to cold. They cannot tolerate. Hypothyroid patient usually, okay, they are heat. They are unlike the hyperthyroidism. They become more sensitive to the cold. They will complain of feeling more cold. Okay, so due to opposite to the hyperthyroidism. Okay, so this is in short about the clinical features of hypothyroidism is very important because hypothyroidism, especially in children, if not treated, the brain atrophy will occur. The patient, the brain functions will be affected because thyroid hormone is a normal thyroid hormone is essential for the normal development of the brain. Or Hashimoto's thyroiditis is one of the most okay. I think I have discussed and you have heard the clinical features.
Yes, sir.
Now, hypothyroidism can be either present in the children or in the adult. Okay. So whenever hypothyroidism involves the children, the condition is known as cretinism. Cretinism. Okay. So such children are physically and mentally retarded. Okay. Such child will be dwarf. Their musculoskeletal system will not develop. Okay. So the height and the stature will be short. Okay. Their mental development will also not occur. Okay. So the term cretinism has originated from Christ-like. Okay. Christ-like means they are referring to the God. Okay. God will never commit any sin. Okay. So such children who are suffering from cretinism, they are incapable or unable to commit any sin or any crime. Okay. So that is why the term cretinism. Cretinism means Christ-like. Christ-like means not able to commit any crime or not able to commit any sin, incapable of sinning. Okay. So cretinism. So features will be growth will be retarded and there will be the facial features as I discussed are very important. The skin will be coarse, okay, edema will be there, swelling of the face will be there, tongue will be enlarged and protruded, okay. So looking at the face of the child, you can say if the child is suffering from cretinism or congenital or the hypothyroidism which is present since birth. Okay. Another important cause of hypothyroidism in children after the birth of the child is iodine deficiency. Okay. So that we'll be discussing just now. Okay. Iodine. So that can also cause hypothyroidism. Diminished intake of iodine. So this is in short about the clinical features of hypothyroidism. Okay. So now the last thing left is the goiter. Okay. So few words about the goiter. So the word or the term goiter is used to refer to the any enlargement of the thyroid gland is known as goiter. Okay. So enlargement can be physiological. Okay, physiology people should have discussed. So there are different stages during development, just like with the onset of the puberty, during pregnancy. Okay, thyroid gland may be enlarged and palpable. Okay, so that is the functional or physiological enlargement of the thyroid gland. So that is to cope up with the increased metabolic demand or the hypermetabolic state. Okay, so that is known as the physiological goiter. Goiter can also be pathological, most commonly. Okay, so pathological goiter is of different type. Okay, so pathological goiter is broadly divided into two types. First type is diffuse non-toxic goiter, in which there is diffuse enlargement of the whole of the lobe of the thyroid gland, both the lobes, most of the cases. Okay, so this is known as diffuse non-toxic goiter. Okay, and this diffuse non-toxic goiter again is of two types, two subtypes. So those two subtypes are, first subtype is endemic goiter, and second subtype is sporadic goiter. So first type of goiter, that is diffuse non-toxic goiter, okay, is of again two subtypes. So those two subtypes are, first is endemic goiter and the second is the sporadic goiter. Okay. Now the second type of goiter is nodular goiter, which is characterized by the formation of single nodule or mostly multiple nodules in the thyroid gland. So that is known as multiple goiter. Clear? Now we'll go into the each types, how to differentiate. So diffuse non-toxic goiter, as I told, is of two subtypes. First is the endemic goiter, second is the sporadic goiter. Okay? So endemic goiter means, endemic means this type of goiter is common in certain geographical areas of the world, especially Himalayan regions, sub-Himalayan regions, and the alpine regions in the Switzerland. Okay? Where there is deficient intake of the iodine. The soil, the water, as well as the iodine and the salt, which is low in the iodine content. So such children actually, they will be taking less amount of the iodine due to the less availability of the iodine in the diet, in the soil, in the water. Okay. So due to the deficiency of the iodine, there will be decreased formation of the thyroid hormone. Clear? And this decreased thyroid hormone will send a feedback signal to the pituitary gland. So there will be more release of the TSS, thyroid stimulating hormone. So this thyroid stimulating hormone will act upon the thyroid follicular cells, thereby causing hyperplasia and hypertrophy of the thyroid follicles and the thyroid epithelial cells. So that is the cause of enlargement of the thyroid gland. Okay. So endemic goiter means these type of goiters are specifically present in certain areas of the world, like Himalayan regions or the Swiss alpine regions, Andes regions, okay, where there is always decreased supply of the iodine. But this endemic goiter now these days is less prevalent because of availability of the iodine supplements in the salt and all that. Okay. Now the sporadic goiter can develop in the adult, all of a sudden, okay? Especially if the adults are taking certain anti-thyroid drugs for the treatment of the hyperthyroidism, okay? So there are anti-thyroid drugs like methimazole and all that, okay? So prolonged use of methimazole can cause sporadic goiter. There are also certain vegetables belonging to the family of cruciferae, like cabbage and the cauliflower. So prolonged use of ingestion of cauliflower and the cabbage can also affect the normal formation of the iodine. There is deiodinization or defective formation of the thyroid hormone. Okay? So that can cause hypothyroidism or the enlargement of the thyroid gland. So this is known as sporadic goiter. Sporadic goiter is very common in the female. So some female all of a sudden, okay, so they may develop enlargement of the thyroid gland. Okay, so this is what is the sporadic goiter, sporadic subtype of the diffuse non-toxic goiter. Okay. Now the second type of goiter is multinodular goiter. So multinodular goiter is actually if the diffuse non-toxic goiter is not treated on time by the antithyroid supplementary drugs or the iodine supplementary drugs. Okay, so chronic repeated cycle of in the thyroid gland there is hypertrophy, hyperplasia, which will be followed by involution of the thyroid follicle. So this changes hyperplastic changes followed by colloid involution. This will become a repeated cycle which will continue for prolonged period of the time. So this will result in increased fibrous tissue formation and inflammatory changes. So which will result in multiple nodule formation or which will result in the formation of multinodular goiter. Okay, so this is how multinodular goiter is formed. Clear? So this is all about the hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism. Okay. So for tomorrow, I will be coming a bit early. Okay, I will come. Actually, the class time is about 12. Okay, so I will come 15 to 20 minutes earlier. Okay. So because tomorrow I have got a meeting. Okay, with the hospital management and all that. So meeting at 12. So there is a small topic that is Graves' disease. So that I will be covering within 15 to 20 minutes. Okay. So it will be better if all of you come 15 to 20 minutes earlier. Okay. Is it possible?